Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another edition of Where I Went Wrong. And in this video, I'll be doing Where I Went Wrong, UFC Vegas 50 edition or not UFC Vegas, but UFC Fight Night, Santos versus Ankalaev. So went 8-14 or 8-6. Pretty solid card for a card that I will, wasn't the most confident on. I feel like the picks that I truly were confident on went pretty well, and I'm pretty sure most people were confident in those picks. Went pretty well, but this is a video where I went wrong and not where I went right. But yeah, 8-6, 8-14, pretty solid. +2 overall for a card that I had a lot of shakiness on it. So first off, the first fight was Tafon Nchukwi versus Azamat Murzakanov. And some people were saying, "Oh, this is gonna be on your Where I Went Wrong video," and it is. But ultimately, I feel like my prediction was pretty solid and pretty spot on. Outcome obviously wasn't the outcome, and whether by an inch or a nail, right is right, wrong is wrong, and this is what it is. So like what a right pick is a right pick, a wrong pick is a wrong pick. Ultimately, it's a wrong pick. But I feel like Nchukwi was outstriking him. Well, really, first round you probably could say kind of a little bit tall. Second round was clearly Nchukwi, and that was right into the third round, and Murzakanov was slowing down. But it was kind of like going with how I was expecting it to go. But ultimately, I guess Nchukwi got a little bit lax out there. Was walking down and kind of forgot the fact that Murzakanov can be a lot of a counter striker. Like once walking into these big power shots, and he kind of lets the guard down a little bit, got caught, and Murzakanov capitalized. And that comes with the gray whiskers, 35 years old versus like a 27, 26-year-old. So even though they both got roughly around the same MMA fights, Murzakanov has more martial arts fights, and that comes in there. You can't get lax out there, and it can happen. But yeah, they're roughly going the right way, but it's not a pick I feel bad about. I knew it was a dog pick. It was a good dog pick. I felt it just didn't cash, but not something I'm necessarily gonna feel bad about. I could see if he went out there and just Russell Clinic him or was out there just picked him apart from start to finish, but he was doing what I was expecting him to do. Merz Conner just saw opening, capitalized, and got him out of there. Wrong pick, but it's not a pick I can say, oh, it's so wrong that I gotta completely reevaluate what I did. I was so off the ball. That's not the case. That's all I'm trying to say. Wrong pick, but wasn't too far off the ball. Just didn't hit a home run. It just didn't point score. It was a loss. Second fight, Guido Canetti versus Chris Motino. That was the second pick I got wrong. Second fight of the card and second pick I got wrong. And this one I was leaning Canetti early on, but then I realized in the past that I had to lean to a lot of these older guys. Not too many fights, maybe 2 or 3 fights. I was leaning to these guys pushing 40 or in their 40s against the younger guy. I feel like they were, more skilled, more this, more that, and then the young guys just weren't there yet, or the old guys still had it, and it was just simply better. But ultimately, a lot of times that they would look good and kind of vintage for a moment, then they would end up losing, or they just come out there and look their age, like time has passed them by. So 42, yeah. Martino might be a bum, probably the worst guy in the division. Maybe not the worst guy in the whole UFC, but in the division, probably the worst guy in that division, the bantamweight division. But he is 29. He's fighting a 42-year-old who's riding a 3-fight losing streak. And he did, his chin did hold up against Sean O'Malley, so maybe he could just outwork him and, fight an older man and beat him. And Canetti was coming off with a good performance, but ultimately, like I said, I think the history kind of led me to lean to Motino just for the fact of age, because I had been burned by age a couple times. I'm like, let me just lean to the youth. But it wasn't a pick I bet on, because it was like I said, it was a battle of last place. Zero confidence. Well, not zero confidence, but very low confidence in that pick. Especially given Motino. That's not somebody you trust your money with, Motino. But yeah, so it was a low confidence pick, but ultimately, even though he was old, like every single time I'm not gonna lean against age. Every single time I'm not gonna. But in this case, it was like a battle between two people that aren't up there or all that necessarily good. So lean kind of to the younger one. But in cases where an X factor, the guy has a grappling deficiency, but the older guy is a real solid wrestler, real solid BJJ player or something, or both. So Styles, the wrestler, grappler's going to tap the guy out that don't have no ground game in most cases. Or a guy that has poor striking, not the best takedown offense, going to guy with a shutdown takedown defense and striking. And maybe he's 42, but he still got enough in him to stylistically, that's a stylistic matchup that favors him. But in most cases, you're just looking at relatively even coin flips, lean to the younger guy, and I think that's going to prevail in most cases. It is just, in this case, it just not prevail. So it's not a pick I feel bad about, but again, a loss. But I guess where I could kind of see where I could fix that up in the future. Like the Enchuki pick is not really a whole lot I could feel fix up in that one. This one, feel like it could be a little tuning right there, a little bit of tuning, but you don't want to tune just for no reason because it's not going to be something that historically over the course of longevity is going to play out that well in most cases. Most times, like, young guy going to win, but it's this case that you're really for probably the worst guy in the division. So just being younger ain't going to get you a victory. That's probably the moral of the story with that one. Just being younger ain't going to win you the fight. That's all. But skills pay the bills. Unless skills relatively even, then maybe the young guy can push the older guy. But if you don't have the skills, this is not going to happen. And he already knew he had historically had horrendous striking defense. So him getting hit was expected, but thought he would have weared him a little bit better, but he didn't. And that was just the fight. So third one was Damon Jackson versus Camuela Kirk. And Damon Jackson versus Camuela Kirk. I really underestimated Damon Jackson and I overestimated Camuela Kirk. I saw what he did against Makwan Americani, but you got to realize Makwan Americani, I feel like Makwan Americani is a better grappler, better submission grappler, better wrestler than Damon Jackson, better talent. But hey, maybe they match up, and he'll prove me wrong again. But the issue with Makwan Americani is not really his skills necessarily; it's his lack of cardio. That's his issue. So he can look good, but then he'll fade or maybe get caught. That's his issue. But Kirk was like, he looked pretty good with I'm getting his name right now. Makwan Americani in the fight with all good submission attempts, was good off his back, but he did get taken down 5 times, so that's kind of foreshadowing. He got taken down 2 or 3 times this fight, and Damon Jackson looked really good in that fight. So I rescind my receding hairline jokes about him, but it is what it is. He got his win. I think it's definitely some matchups he could win in the division and rise up. I'm not saying Damon Jackson gonna be no big threat in this division, but he could definitely get some wins in this division, and continue to get some wins in this division. Stick around for a bit. I don't know why my eye looks so red. I don't know. Maybe it's the camera, but we're gonna roll with it. But yeah, I guess in that one, going forward, Camuela Kirk's wrestling defense is questionable. Grappling not really so questionable, but it's a case like Charles Rosa Pettis syndrome where you're not bad on the ground at all. It's just a case of you gotta work to avoid going to the ground because then you can just get decision and you get laid and prey to a decision or position to a decision loss. So that's going forward. Camuela Kirk could potentially go in there with grappler, just end up on bottom and lose a decision. That's something to look for. Damon Jackson on the side, really only going to fade him against maybe people that have real good takedown defense and can strike him, or maybe better, just flat out better grappler. That's probably the case. So people that got good takedown defense and can knock him out, and people that can out grapple him are just real smart fighters with go around skill sets. But yeah, definitely as far as people with poor takedown defense, going to lean to Damon Jackson going forward in those type of matchups. But good win for him. Definitely was a case where it was like overestimation on one end and underestimation on the other end, and was far too confident in this pick. But yeah, that's my third one. Fourth one was Javid Basharat versus Trevin Jones. And this one, like I said, this is another one of the picks where I really can't necessarily feel too bad about. Somebody say, oh, you don't know nothing because of this pick or blah, 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 whatever you want to say about this pick. But Javid Basharat, prior to this fight, had not really fought anyone. And it is a lot of cases where more often than not, these guys come in looking very good, not fighting nobody. And they come up, yes, your skills look there, you look more polished, more this and more that. Then you fight a step up in competition, and then you don't look as pretty. And obviously, I feel like he was tested as much as he's been tested, at least relatively in the recent years or recent fights against Trevin Jones. So he did not look necessarily as good as prior. He didn't look like no super just run right through him beast like that, but he still held up. It was a case of where he was just some guy that's only looked good because he was fighting guys that were beneath him. He's actually showed just validated his skill set and now going forward so I don't feel too bad about that one. That was more so intel, and now I know at least more so that he can go in there with a solid guy out there and look good, fight a clean performance throughout, shut down all of Trevin Jones takedowns, and for a real solid performance out there. So good for Javid Basharat. I still don't necessarily know where to place him just yet because it's not like Trevin Jones is necessarily the most technical, most clean striker, but nonetheless, his skill set is very valid. But depending on how they move him kind of slow a little bit. That give me more time. Don't try to just jump him up, but move kind of a little laterally, maybe backwards, more up, but not really try to skyrocket him up. I feel like it's definitely a case where you put some good money on him and build him up, and also gain more intel on him and see exactly where he stands and where he's at and where his development's going. But if they try to jump him too far, I don't know how really I can look at him too much. I really got to look deeper into this one. But yeah, regardless, I got to look deeper into him and really look back at that fight and pick up on little details because, like I said, I can't really factor his other fight too much. But this is his first fight I really can truly factor like going forward. But solid performance from him. Fourth round pick right there. Fifth round pick was was that the fourth or fifth? Yeah, now the fifth one held Drew Dober versus Terrence McKinney. And I feel like this is the biggest, most obvious one that should have went the other way with Drew Dober. I mean, Terrence McKinney almost got him out of there early, but a guy that's became known in what his two fights in the UFC is a guy that's a first round finisher, going in with a veteran with a chin. Dober's had like 100, not 100%, like 99% chin. He had that big, wide, oblong looking chin. That man could take some shots, and you going in with a first round finisher. So grappling may be wise, but it's not like Dober. The people that have really had success with Dober on the ground have been people that with much more experience, like at the time having comparative experience to, like a comparable experience to Dober, or having more experience, or it's been having more validated skills. Like we haven't really seen Terrence McKinney. He's been in with Ziam, who's not really a grappler at all. He's been in there with and he knocked out Matt Favola, so and a little bit of time, so he hasn't really been out there very much. So we haven't really been able to really again validate his skills. And I'm saying he don't have lack of skills, but again, you've been out there, you got used to these first round finishes. A guy was able to survive the storm, like Dober, veteran, with like 90% of his body being chin, survive that storm, and then put it on you. And even then, like I was already kind of saying, it's a late round finish maybe for Terrence McKinney, which was a bad pick because McKinney at this level had never really been extended. I don't think he has poor cardio, but he don't have high level experience at this level necessary because multiple rounds because it's been one round under 2 minutes, 3 minutes less than that. First fight was like 7 seconds. Second fight was like a minute, so haven't really had that time. You going in with a veteran, he's gonna stand you, and knowing Dober, he's gonna put you out. That's typically how he beats his opponent. So that was a bad pick right there, bad pick. And clearly was a momentum pick, as somebody mentioned in the video. So that was a momentum pick, hype pick, and that was a bad pick. Clear money should have been on Dober. And again, McKinney almost got that first round finish, but definitely I felt like the biggest bad pick was my pick, which was picking a later finish with a fresh face versus a veteran. When at best it kind of bank on maybe first round finish for McKinney, which he almost got, but late round finish, not necessarily unless he has a history of doing that. It's just like, but again, you never know because it's these fresh faces, and sometimes guys go out there, they get first round finishes, then next on they could fight a 3 round fight, look clean, and like I said, I could knock you out in the first round, or I could beat you for 3 rounds, I could beat you for 5 rounds. But again, it's just the little variables you don't really know about when you're dealing with these fresher faces. Especially when a guy only had less than 3 minutes in total of cage time, 2 fights, but less than 3 minutes of actual fighting time. But that was my fifth one. Then my sixth and final one that I got wrong was Khalil Roundtree versus Carl Roberson. And I'm just gonna say it flat out. Some people have been peeking, like they've been putting stats on my picks. Some picks I'm real solid on, some fighters I'm real solid on, a lot of fighters I'm real solid on. And then there's just these odd occurrences where it's like, this guy just does not pick these guys' fights very well. Like his picks for this guy are like horrendous. And I'm not saying Carl Robinson. Khalil Roundtree might be the worst person I'm at predicting. So if you see me picking any fight with Khalil Roundtree, just pick the opposite of where I would pick. If I pick him, pick his opponent. If I pick his opponent, pick him because I'm horrendous with Khalil Roundtree picks, and I would not put no money on that. I would just avoid that. So, well, me personally, because I have a horrendous track record until otherwise. I mean, I might have got it with the Paul Craig one earlier. Tyson Pedro, I predicted him to beat him and some other stuff, but it's been some years, like way, way back since I actually really picked him against Prachnio. He just looked this did not have. I know some people feel like he won that fight. A lot of people feel like he won that fight. I didn't really feel like he won that fight. The judges didn't feel like he won that fight, but I picked him, got it wrong. Then the fight prior to his last fight, this looked like a Greek god out there kicked the man's kneecap out of his socket. Then this fight again looked like a beast. But yeah, Khalil Roundtree is such an odd person. I think I picked him against Ion Kudilava. Looked horrendous. Picked Eric Anders. He looked like a monster. It's like, hey, that's his Roundtree for you, and that's just my history with Roundtree. This terrible. I think I'm probably with 2-6 or something on Khalil Roundtree picks. oh, Johnny Walker. Johnny Walker looked like, this beast coming into UFC. But when I looked at his fights, he didn't not look that great. The chin habit that we're seeing now, I was seeing prior to him entering UFC, but and I thought Roundtree would be able to touch that guy's chin. And then he started the whole Johnny Walker hype train. So like, yeah. But now if they fought again now, you probably would expect Clear Roundtree to beat him, most likely, given their current momentums. But yeah, at the time I thought it was looked like a pretty good pick at the time, but it did not pan out. I'm going and pass, but currently, yeah, it's like I'm just not big. I'm just not good at picking Khalil Roundtree. I think with this one, I guess you try to look at it just out of your own personal thing with somebody's like your pattern and record. I guess Roundtree definitely was the bigger, stronger man, more powerful, but he does have a tendency at times to get wild and not really manage the fight as good as he can or should at times. But hey, like there's at times where he just looked like he is sharp, and this was one of those nights he was just sharp. So going for it, I don't know. I still gonna be shaky about Roundtree until he's able to consistently do it. Now he's putting two together. Like I don't think he's ever really done that. It's been times where he lost, but then somehow fights get turned to no contest or something. Then it's a odd streak of not losing, but it's rare that he's ever on a streak. It's rare. I think he might only did it one time prior to this, maybe one time or maybe never. And then maybe if he put three together, four together, then now he goes from a guy that's consistently inconsistent to a guy that's consistent and improving, but definitely like a beast, definitely like a world beater tonight and the prior night, and also in Arrogant. That's probably the most beautiful performance ever. But matter of fact, I don't know. This one might beat the Arrogant one because he actually got to stop it. But Arrogant, he beat that man from pillar to post for 3 rounds straight. That was crazy. That might be the best because he also shut down takedowns in that one too. So I still feel like the Arrogant one, that one really burned me back then, and that was a solid performance from straight beginning to end. Shot down every single takedown. So that probably was, to me, that's his best performance to me, the Arrogant one. But this one's a close second, close second. But anywho, yeah, I'm just not good at picking Khalil Roundtree. I just feel like Carl Robeson had never lost a striking matchup in MMA. This overall had been the more cleaner technical fighter throughout his fights. He had never really been a guy that gets so wild and so sloppy, at least in the striking. Grappling, that Brendan Allen fight, I don't know why he tried to go leg lock with a submission guy. That was dumb. But striking wise, he had never really made no big glaring errors in MMA. So I expect him to make less errors, extend Khalil Roundtree past the first, and then be able to thrive in later rounds. So not necessarily a bad pick based on what it is, but hey, that's just me. I don't know. As far as Roundtree, probably get a lot of more picks wrong with him. Whether it be him winning or losing. But ultimately, the best decision I could do is just to not even, if I see him a fight with him, just leave the money on the sidelines. I ain't dealing with it. But I know everybody's probably got a better track record, but me with him, it's like, I leave it alone. I leave it alone. That's just flat out what it is. I leave it alone. And that's the video. Then the main event, I thought Ankalaev would do a little bit more, but I don't know why he's so impressed by the performance of himself. But hey, you winning, you fight at the highest level, you get wins and win the bonus. So winning by any means is a good thing, I guess. And at least he won convincingly to an extent. It wasn't like he got no robbery decision or anything, but it certainly was no performance that should make anybody, turn anybody's head. It was not that performance. It was he did what he had to do. He got his win, but by no means did it turn anyone's head. I thought maybe he would be able to, really hurt Santos more, maybe mix it to the ground a little bit more, but he chose to strike, which I guess can be somewhat impressive. He fought him on the feet for 5 rounds and beat him pretty much on the feet. Did clinch him up a lot of times, but still a standing fight. A fighter stood pretty much the whole time and got his hand raised versus a 38-year-old Thiago Santos. But yeah, not really amazing performance, but got his hand raised. I picked him nonetheless. But yeah, that's just me documenting the main event. Is always got to just drop a little tidbit in there. But ultimately, don't feel too bad about this card at all. Feel much more better about the next card going forward. But yeah, and most importantly, I feel like the picks I were confident in went almost exactly as expected. That's about it. Outside the main event, I expect him to do, to put on a statement performance, which he didn't. But it's not like I bet him to put on a statement performance. I bet him to win. So that is what it is. Solid night. As far as based on a poor night, that's a very solid night. If that's a poor night, Because a poor night could be a case of you going like 2-14 or 2-14 or this and that, like negative, or it's some bad nights. And I have had some real bad nights, but +2, 8-14, I think that's exceptional as far as a bad night. So bad night, but by bad night standards, exceptional. So it's not the exceptional you want, but you can still put exceptional on this card if you stretch it. So that's the video. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe, and come back for more videos. Peace.